Good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to another edition of Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford are with you this beautiful Wednesday morning here in wonderful downtown Bardstown. Not a cloud in the sky. Well, I say that, but off to the east, I saw a few high wispy clouds. But if they're in the east, they're usually going away from us. So things off to the west look pretty clear. Anyway, it's a beautiful day, kind of cool, but light jacket weather. As I was telling Margie before the show, I took the garbage out last night, so I didn't have to run around like a chicken with its head off.
That's the latest installment of the Garbage Wars.
Well, I won this round.
I know that. I've congratulated you this morning.
And I listened to you, too. It's easier to do it on Tuesday night than it is
exactly.
in a rush on Wednesday morning.
Words of wisdom.
That's right. That's right.
What do you think summer's here to stay? I mean, do you think summer's here to stay, really?
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you, usually the way our seasons change.
Yeah.
You know, we have about 2 weeks of spring.
Oh, I know. I've already conceded that spring has come and gone. And,
yeah.
You know, we're
It's like summertime in Michigan. Yeah. You know, they have like a week of summer.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, Margie, we're joined by two special studio guests. We're delighted to have them with us today. Nelson County Clerk Jeanette Sidebottom is with us, and Cathy
Marks.
My mind went blank. Cathy Marks, who, well, I call her the election guru, but I think you've got a more official title than that.
The official title is elections team leader.
Okay, right, and
I like guru.
and Cathy and all the people that work with her on election night, they do a wonderful job managing our elections. Our elections are secure, and all the votes get counted. And thank you again for everything you do, and you put up with the media, and I
That's
really
true.
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And all our dumb questions.
Cathy, the election office also has two other employees that follow along behind Cathy. Mm-hmm. Cathy's the leader, and it's Audrey and April, and they do an excellent job also.
Right, and we have though you really can't tell it by looking at yard signs, there's an election coming up in just a short couple of weeks, perhaps.
It is, yes, it is. It was 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's coming up pretty soon here.
Primary
Yes.
election.
Yes, it's May 16th, so yes.
It's a lot different than the last election primary.
Right, and if you look at the ballot for the GOP, it looks like the field for the Kentucky Derby. You've got 12 candidates vying to be the Republican nominee for governor. And some of the names I've never heard of, more than half I've recognized, or I've gotten a mailer from them or something, or seen them on KET.
And on the printed ballot that was in the paper, some people might be confused about the fact that there are two ballots for governor.
That is correct. The only difference is they do a draw at each congressional district. So now we are split between two congressional districts. At the exact same candidates, it's just they're going to be in a different order depending if you're on the 2nd congressional district or the 4th congressional
And that's
district.
because they were, you draw those names
Yes,
out.
we draw like out of a hat. Yeah, we do it if it's local, and then the Secretary of State does it for the statewide candidates. Yes.
Okay.
Well, we have new voting machines.
We do.
So,
We have
maybe
the
we
new
can
machines.
Talk to us about that.
Yes. You want to start?
Well, that's fine. They're Verity, and we got them from the Harp Enterprise, is who our vendor is. They're excellent machines. Today was our first day using them with the excused absentee voting in the office. They seem like they're running really smooth. They're high technology versus what we had. We're excited to have them. Mm-hmm. And I'll let Cathy go on and to do the inside of it because she works with them every day.
Correct. For the voter, it's not going to be a lot of a difference. They're just going to look a little different, but it's still the same scan. You know, you're still going to have a pre-printed ballot.
Right.
You're still going to scan it. It's just the scanner's going to look a little bit different than what voters
It'll
used
still be
to.
the same process. You
Same
feed it
process.
to the scanner one way up side or
It's going to be, exact same process. You're going to sign in on a poll book. You're going to issue you a ballot. You go to a booth, mark your ballot, and then it goes into a scanner.
I will tell you, I think one of the most interesting advances in technology for your office and elections is that electronic poll book. Because that
Yes.
makes it possible to have voting centers
Yes.
and not have to vote at precincts instead of like the old paper. Now, I still enjoyed signing. And then, of course, as a dad, I always enjoyed signing the book to see if all my family members had
Exactly.
voted.
Yeah, me too. I would check up on the, I would check up, see if they got in and voted.
Can't do that now.
do
but
that now.
but the electronic poll book has tremendous advantages.
Right. Another thing you'll see with these new machines is on-demand printing.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
at the library, which is our vote center, and then during early absentee, we'll have the printer works great. I watched this morning. You have a little barcode. You go ahead and tell them because
Yeah.
this is your thank you.
When we have new poll pads also, which are a little bit different. So when the person signs in, it prints them a slip.
Right.
Okay.
It'll have your information. It'll have the ballot you're supposed to receive. Your ballot style is what we call it, and it also does a barcode. So if you have print on demand, you just put it down, hit it with the barcode scanner, and it automatically will print your correct ballot.
Wow.
It's
So
nice.
It's nice. It's very nice.
So you don't have to have
Eliminating human error.
Yeah.
Yes.
and you don't have to have a palette of pre-printed
Correct.
Ballots, correct.
and hope you have enough.
Right.
So it prints the ballot for you while you're right there.
You're right there. The scanner starts
Yeah.
printing it.
The
And
lady
the
who-
barcode makes sure that
Exactly.
it's right.
Right. Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like it would eliminate a lot of the human error,
Yes.
especially being
Well, the possibility of human error.
Yeah, well, with the two now being in two congressional districts,
Correct. Correct.
kind of changes things a little bit.
And I'm hoping eventually it might save us a little bit of money too, because when you use pre-printed ballots, you always had to order extra because you never know, it might have been a super heavy turnout.
Right.
So there was a lot we had to destroy versus what I'm doing now, you can print exactly what you need and there's no waste, so.
Right.
Then we
now-
actually stops us from, if we didn't have enough printed, meeting someone from Lexington, bring us new ballots.
Now, I think you've had to do that.
We have had to
Yeah, we
do
yes.
that, yes.
I remember when I served on the election commission, that happened
Running
once.
down
They had-
ballots,
had to-
yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this
Had
is,
to drive halfway and
Halfway
meet
and
somebody.
somebody, yes. Yeah.
Well, this is being a primary election. It's turnout. I expect turnout to be fairly light.
Yes, that's what I'm saying also.
They're statewide offices, but this isn't this isn't going to be the November election where things are actually
Right.
decided. Other than now, are there any Democratic races on any primary for Democrats?
There are two on the Democratic side. It's governor and commissioner of agriculture.
Yeah.
Are the two primaries. The Republican side, it's 5 different races. The Democratic side, it's 2.
Right.
Okay. Well,
And the
Margie,
ballots are shorter.
Very, very short ballot, so it shouldn't be many lines at your polling place because this is a quick,
Right.
a quick
there is
vote.
an example ballot, a sample ballot
Yes.
that went out into the newspaper too.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is very, very helpful. I'm so glad that you all do this. And this gives all of the precincts and where they vote.
Correct.
And you might want to talk
Sure.
about that.
Talk about it a little bit today.
About where people voted previously.
Yeah.
And where they will be voting now, because you've combined so
Do
many
we want to
of those.
start with what we're doing today, which is excused, and then I'll work my way up to Election Day?
That works.
All right. So today, Jeanette kind of alluded to, we started excused absentee voting, which is in the office. So you have to have a reason to vote. This is for the next 6 days. It's today, Thursday, Friday, and the next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So some of the reasons could be your age, disability, or illness. You're going to be out of town both Election Day and the 3 days of early voting. Those are the big ones. Or either vacation, college student, work. That's the big reason. So you would come into our office, vote, just like Election Day, bring your ID
Right.
and vote. Starting next Thursday, which is May the 11th, we start early voting
Oh,
at the library, main branch here in Bardstown. So that would be Thursday, May 11th, Friday, May 12th, and Saturday, May 13th, each day from 8 to 4.
okay.
Like I said, that's early voting, so you don't need a reason to vote early. Anybody in Nelson County can vote early, but that's our only location for
I
early
think
voting.
that is one of the
We
best
I agree.
innovations that we've had.
I agree. So then, just so nobody's confused, what people get confused is that Monday the 15th,
Yeah.
that's kind of a black hole in there because there's no voting anywhere that day. So if you know you're going to be out of town before Election Day, you got to get to early voting, because if you wait till Monday, unfortunately, you won't be able to vote.
Right.
Okay. Then Election Day itself, there are 14 different locations. Of course, the big one is, of course, the public library will be our vote center.
Right.
Anybody can choose to vote at the public library here in Bardstown instead of their own polling place. The other polling locations that are open is New Haven Public School. There's going to be 3 precincts there. One is Howardstown, the people who always voted at New Haven, plus the ones who would vote at New Hope at St. Vincent de Paul previously. Foster Heights in Bardstown. The 2 precincts there, of course, are Foster Heights, and then the voters who had previously voted at the First Christian Church here in Bardstown. Okay. Fairgrounds, they have 2 precincts there, A105, which always voted at the fairgrounds, plus A106. They had always voted the fairgrounds previously. They had to be split because now they're in 2 different congressional districts. That's the only difference. Parkway Baptist Church, the 2 precincts there are the ones who voted at Parkway Baptist, and then the ones who previously, when the library was just a polling place, was their place. Okay, so everybody has a choice. Old Kentucky Home Middle School, there's just 1 precinct there. Bardstown Primary School, which is the one on Templin. It's not the new elementary school, it's the primary school. The 2 precincts there are the ones who voted at the primary school previously, plus the ones who used to vote at Bardstown Baptist Church. Then we have Bardstown Middle School. 2 precincts there are Bardstown Middle School, and then the ones who formerly voted at the Civic Center. Boston School is a precinct. The only precinct there is Boston. Then we have Thomas Nelson High School. The 2 precincts there are the ones who always voted at Thomas Nelson, plus the ones who formerly voted at St. Gregory's. Then Cox's Creek School. 2 precincts there are Cox's Creek School, plus the ones who formerly voted at Souls Harbor Church. National Guard Armory, there's just 1 precinct there, so it's just National Guard. All right. Then we have Northeast Nelson. Bloomfield Middle School now has 3 precincts. So it's Bloomfield, Fairfield, and Chaplin. All vote now at Bloomfield Middle School. And then finally we have Nelson County High School. There are actually 3 precincts there, which is the ones who always voted at Nelson County High School, the ones formerly who voted at Faith Worship Center. And then the 3rd precinct is E106, which is also one of those small ones we had to create because of congressional redistricting. They had always voted at Nelson County High School in the past.
Okay.
Okay? So that are your locations for Election Day.
All right.
Yeah, well, what about the drop box?
Okay.
We have 1 drop box out front of the clerk's office. It's on the outside. We've got directions on how to put your ballot into this drop box. We've had a little trouble with the door. If you make sure the door is completely closed, it will open. It's just like a bank drop box.
Yeah,
You have to push
yeah.
hard and then open it, put your ballot in. If you do put your ballot in incorrectly, it will tear the ballot up. So definitely follow the
Can you
directions.
deposit ballots in there up to including
6 o'clock,
Election Day?
6 o'clock Election Day, we have to have them back. There's also one in Cathy's office that if you don't want it to drop it off on the outside, which we've got cameras on the outside, we've got a camera on the inside. It's very secure. You can go into Cathy's office at the clerk's office.
There's a camera in my office,
There's a
too.
camera in her office, yes.
Now, I know during COVID, absentee voting was pretty wide open, but it's things have kind of tightened up a little bit on that.
Correct. It's kind of gone back to the way it was before COVID, which is you had to have a reason.
Right.
Like you said, yesterday was the deadline for mail-ins, and you could still receive one, but you were going back to you had to have a reason. Which most of those are the age, disability, or illness. So for whatever reason, they can't get out to get to the polls.
Or if someone is afraid of catching something.
Right.
Right, well, like you said.
I mean, if you're in fragile medical condition.
Yeah, if you
You'd have
tell
to
me,
have
but like you said, you have to tell me that on the phone. I have a medical condition, I don't have to need specifics, but
Yeah.
if you call me on the phone, the first question I usually say is, what is your reason for needing one? Like I said, they also made it easier that if you had a computer access, you can do it yourself on the website. Like you said, that ended yesterday for the primary. So the people that still have their ballots out, we mailed out about 130 which is not a whole lot, but for a primary is about average. Like Jeanette said, that we just have to receive them back by 6 p.m. Election Day. So we either use the drop boxes, or if you mail them, make sure you mail them in plenty of time.
Right.
And it is $1.50 to mail those ballots back, which usually requires 3 stamps.
Now, with the new, easier way of doing it online, some of the voters only hear computer and online.
Right.
That is not the only way you can request an absentee ballot. You can always call my office, talk to the election office, which is option number 7. We will do everything we can for you. So you do not have to do it on a computer. So there's a lot of people that hears that word, and then some may not even vote because
What's
they
the
can't do it.
last time to request an absentee ballot?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Okay. So if you don't have an absentee ballot, it's too late for this election.
It is too late.
All right.
Like I said, if you call me in, like you said, you have one of the reasons like age, disability, and all this. If you can get into our office, you can do excused in person. And so that's still available for the next 6 days.
So if they're going to be out of town.
Out of town is also, like you said, the thing is, it's like out of town election day plus the 3 days of early voting. You can
Right.
also do it for these
Right.
6 days in the office.
Great.
The early voting days kind of seems like, if you're an able-bodied person, it seems like that there'd be less demand for absentee because you've got many more
opportunities. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I expect to vote at the voting center.
Good.
It's just so handy.
Oh,
Yes.
It is.
Me too.
I like
Yes.
voting centers.
It's right up the street from me.
Yes.
Well, my old polling place at Souls Harbor was just down the road from.
Yeah.
And Cox's Creek is a little closer.
Yeah.
So.
Now, a lot of the voters did go to the voting center last election, and there was a line. We did have our poll workers go to the back of the line and say, hey, you don't have to wait in line here. You can go to your own precinct. So on election day, you got 2 places. You can go to your precinct, or you can go to the vote center, which usually it goes pretty fast. We didn't have a lot of complaints about it at all.
Right.
Right. Like you said, we did have a pretty long line in November at the library, but also I think a lot of people would say it actually moved pretty fast
stayed.
once
They
they got
didn't
in.
leave.
Well, no,
Yeah.
they didn't want to
Yeah.
leave. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to have to stand in line no
Right.
matter where you
Exactly.
go.
Right. And while I don't expect there to be long lines
Right.
for this
Right.
primary, if you're in line at when the polls close, you're going to still get to vote.
Yeah, and the law still is, it doesn't matter how long that line is, if you're in line by 6 p.m., you're allowed to vote. Yes,
And we went over that at our election school, making sure every officer knew that if someone was in line at 6 o'clock, the sheriff officer will go to the end of that line. However, anybody that comes up behind them will be told that they can't vote.
Right.
Right.
All right. You've gotten the full training on the new machines. The new machines are. This is actually. I ended up like a year ahead of when they were mandated
2024.
by the state. So,
Yes.
but anyway, that's a great idea because you've got an election to go through with them.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's not like a huge election either.
Which the presidential
Yeah.
2024 would
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Would be crazy
So
to
you
start
need-
new
yeah.
technology. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives the people a chance to
Right.
get familiar with it themselves, you know.
Right.
get familiar with it, plus get my precinct officers familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
Just because this is going to be a low turnout, so this is a great election to learn, because like you said, they don't feel so pressured if there's a line waiting for them to open at 6 a.m.
Right.
Yes.
Another aspect of these new machines is a lot of people will go after they vote, they'll slide their ballot into the machine, walk away, the ballot kicks it out. It just sits there. Unless one of my poll workers, hey, you got to come back.
Right.
This one will not let you do that. It will, but okay, explain that to them because I knew he was
Well,
telling us something.
it can still do what we call overvotes, but
Right.
they've changed the wording to hopefully make it easier for the voter to understand. It used to just say contest was overvoted.
Right, now it has,
Now it'll say something
Wording.
like governor, lieutenant governor, too many choices has been made.
Oh, okay.
So it'll
Easy for
say you
someone to
either
direct.
spoil your ballot or hit this button to cast as is, because you technically have 2 choices. You can say, I don't want to do it again. You can just take it as is, which wouldn't count the race that's overvoted, but it'll count everything else. But most voters will choose to then spoil it, and then we can issue them a new ballot. So it's the same process.
Overvoting means that you have voted for two candidates.
It's made you made too many
down
choices.
to the next
Right.
spot, yes. And there's quite a few.
Because,
of those.
I mean, if that goes through, then neither vote will be counted. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
I think
Yes.
everybody would choose to
Right.
do
Right.
it over.
Well, unfortunately, what happens is sometimes if you get really busy and whoever's watching the machines don't catch it,
Right.
then we find it on the machine. At that point,
It's
I don't
too late.
know what the voter wanted to do.
Right.
So we cast it as is, you know. They get everything except that race that's
Now, when the
overvoted.
ballot is printed, is there any barcode or anything that identifies the voter with the ballot?
No. There is a barcode, but that just identifies the type of ballot it
ballot
is.
face.
So what we call it is a ballot style.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So basically, that matches up to the voting machine that says, yes, I can take this ballot style.
Right.
Yes.
And there would be no way of knowing who that person
No.
voted. So
You cannot.
Right. It only identifies the
It only
ballot.
identifies the ballot, correct.
Okay. And, but being able to print ballots on demand
It's great.
is
great.
a real advance, and I'm glad fiscal court agreed to go.
They did.
go with
I am
that.
too, yes.
This election, we just have them in the office for early voting, and then at the library for
Right.
early voting. And actually, on the library on election day, we'll have them. Now, the general, we should have one in every precinct.
Right.
So it'd be
Yes.
great.
Right. Well, I think Harp, their presentation to fiscal court, I mean, was really good.
Yes, they've been good to us. Anytime I've called, people has questions, I'm going to call them. They come down. They explain.
Right.
He also teaches our election school, and he's real
Okay.
thorough. He stops when someone has a question.
Well, my wife was describing him too, and I said, I think he was at fiscal court, the same,
Yes.
I can't remember his
Yes.
name.
It was
But he was
Is this representative of the?
of Harp, yes, the vending machine.
Yes, okay.
But they're real good. Their explanations. I mean, I bought it. I don't think anybody has any more questions. I know that they did it first. But it's just something we have to get used to. A lot of people don't like new technology at all.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. I still kind of pine for the days when we had the big behemoths with the mechanical levers. And
Those things were like from outer space or something.
I think Clay Blanchett was the only person in the county who could figure it out.
Yes, we miss Clay. We do miss Clay.
That is probably true.
He was indispensable
He
for
was. I remember
for
him
years.
and Phyllis Mattingly's husband at the clerk's office when I first started, and they would wear their suits and they would work with the elections. It's the good days.
All right, well, we're at the bottom of the hour. Let's take a commercial break, and we'll be back with more with our special guest from the Nelson County Clerk's office. And we're talking about the upcoming primary election, which will be here before we know it. So Bradford Brooks will be right back. Please stay tuned. All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford here with you again for Bradford and Brooks every Wednesday from 11 to noon. And please stay with us till the top of the hour. And then stay tuned to WBRT for the best in state and local news and obituaries. And our special guest today, Nelson County Clerk Jeanette Sidebottom, and election
Team leader.
Team leader. Sorry.
I want to
keep
call
wanting
you
to say
commissioner.
guru. Election team leader Cathy Marks. And we're delighted to have you all with us.
Thank you.
And today is the first day of, what's it called?
Excused absentee voting is what it's called.
And if you're going to be out of town, election day or the 3 early voting days, you can vote up at the clerk's office for the next how many days?
Next 6 days.
6 days.
Yes.
So check your calendar, and I think I'll be in town one of the either election day or the 3 early voting days. So I won't have to vote early, but it's great to be able to do that if you have to.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, we were just looking at the ballot during the break, and I didn't realize until now that Steve Beshear had a Democratic challenger.
Andy Beshear.
I'm Steve Beshear. I do that all
That's
the
his
time.
dad.
That Andy Beshear, thank you all. Andy Beshear has a challenger in the Democratic primary. So, are there other Democrats? Is there another Democratic?
There's
race?
3 total.
3 total?
Oh, but against the governor is 2 running against Andy, but there is another Democrat race.
Yes. You want me to, yeah, so.
Let's just talk about
Let's just
it.
talk
Let's go
about
over
it.
the races, yeah.
Like you said, it's a lot lighter on the Democratic side. For governor, there's 3 candidates. Of course, Andy Bashir, but it's also Pepe Martin and Jeffrey M. Jeff Young are the 3 candidates. Like you said, it's different draw orders. You might not see it in that order on your ballot,
Right.
depending on your congressional district. The only other race on the Democratic side is Commissioner of Agriculture. The 2 candidates are Michael Malone and Sierra J. Enlow.
Yeah. That's all. Well, let's go to the other side.
Yes, so as you can tell, for the Republican nominee for governor, that's when you've got 12 candidates. There's quite a few. So the candidates are Jacob Clark, David O. Cooper, Kelly Craft, Eric Dieters, Bob DeVore, Mike Harmon, Alan Keck, Dennis Ray Omerond, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Ryan Quarles, Johnny Ray Rice, Robbie C. Smith, and Daniel Cameron.
What makes that the Republican ticket or primaries interesting is you've got 3 office holders.
Right,
You've got
exactly.
the Attorney General Daniel Cameron. You've got the auditor Mike Harmon,
Mike Harmon.
and then
You're probably thinking of Ryan Quarles.
Ryan Quarles.
Commissioner of Agriculture.
Commissioner Ryan
right,
Quarles.
Right.
And all seeking. Now, I haven't seen any local advertising for Mike Harmon. I mean, he was one of the first candidates to come out and declare, but haven't seen much. Haven't seen much of anything except. Just
Well, really, the only ones that I've seen are for Kelly.
Right.
Yeah.
And Steve Nipper.
And Steve Nipper. Yeah.
A few.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're fine.
Cathy.
You're
Go
fine.
ahead.
So the next race on the Republican side is Secretary of State. There are 3 candidates: Stephen L. Nipper, Alan Miracle, and Michael Adams.
And Michael Adams is the incumbent.
Yes, he's the incumbent Secretary
Right.
of State.
Right.
Okay. Then there's also Auditor of Public Accounts. The 2 candidates are Derek Petties and Allison Ball.
And Allison Ball is the incumbent in that race.
Yeah.
Yes.
State Treasurer, you've got 3 candidates.
No, wait a minute.
Oh,
Allison Ball is the treasurer. She can't, I think, isn't she?
No, wait a minute. She's auditor. She's auditor.
That's what she's running for, auditor.
That's what she's running.
I mean, that's what she is now. She's auditor now.
okay.
And she's running for re-election.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
It's
Sorry.
Michael Adams, who was secretary.
Okay, got you.
Who's
Got it.
Secretary of State.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I didn't
No, you're
mean to
fine.
interrupt.
You're fine.
I'm bad at
That's
that.
right. All right. Looking at Mike.
You're fine. All right. So, State Treasurer, there are 3 candidates: Michael H. Metcalf, O.C. O.J. Olika, and then Andrew Cooper Ryder are the 3
Okay.
candidates. And then Commissioner of Agriculture, you also have 2 candidates on the Republican side. It's Jonathan Schell and Richard Heath. So, like you said, there are 5 actual races on the Republican side, and then just 2 on the Democratic side.
And you know, Margie, other than the candidates in all those races who were incumbents in another office, I really don't know very little about any of the races.
Well,
And the candidates.
there has been very little advertising. I mean, of course, the governor's race has been highly advertised on the Republican side because there's a race there.
Right.
So that has been the most advertising that I have seen.
Right. And I think Kelly Craft and Daniel Cameron are probably spending the most money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There. I mean, I don't watch TV all the time. I just only watch it part of the time. But those are the only advertisements that I have seen.
On the TV. That's me, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So evidently there's a huge bucket of cash out there for
Well,
some of these advertisements,
Right.
and there's not for others.
well, and Margie too, we talked about this. Whoever wins that gubernatorial primary for governor is going to have to face incumbent, because Steve Beshear more than likely will win the nomination.
Andy.
No, I'm saying, Andy Beshear, I'm going to have to write that on my back of my hand. Andy Beshear will win the Democratic nomination.
Yes, yes.
That's-
Well, as a Democrat, I can say I think he's done a great job, so I feel good about his chances there. But this is,
Well, I will tell you, there's a body of people, and they're probably Republicans or independents, who still harbor bad feelings about how he handled COVID. But of course, there was no book on how
There was
to
no
handle the
playbook
pandemic.
back
No
then.
playbook. You kind of go as you make it up as you go along.
Well, I definitely don't want another election like we had in COVID.
But you guys did a wonderful job, and I'll have to give kudos to Michael Adams.
Yes.
As Secretary of State at that
We had a
time.
lot of-
He did a good job.
He did, yes.
And your all's office, of course, did a wonderful job here, making it all work with out to the fairgrounds and cars. I mean, it was just, there could have been chaos, and it
Right.
wasn't.
We had a lot of citizens from the Nelson County step up and help us. I mean, we had a crew opening ballots, and anyone we asked, they helped. We didn't get anybody turn us down or no sassiness. We had a lot of help.
Well, I was out at the fairgrounds before the polls closed, and you had to drive through.
Right.
And everything was smooth. Everything seemed to be went well, and you really couldn't tell there was a pandemic, because you all had prepared so well and planned so well for the elections.
Yeah, and that's when you instituted the drop box.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is a great idea.
Yeah.
I agree.
Actually,
Because
fiscal
you
court
don't
knows
have,
that drop
if
box
you've
is the
got an
best thing.
absentee ballot, you don't have to worry about whether the mail's going to get it there or not.
Right.
I agree. That was one of the two things from the pandemic that now has became permanent. The drop box, which I agree was excellent, because it used to be you had to mail it back. The other thing, which is the 3 days of early voting. We never had that before the pandemic, and now that's in statute.
Yeah.
I think those are the two best things that came out of
I
that.
think it is too. I have to brag a little. My daughter, Lisa Pinkston,
Yes,
was
she
on
was.
that.
She was on our
And
board.
she was one. I think she had made the suggestion about the drop box, and you all did that. So
I miss Lisa.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, great helper.
she's a hard worker.
She was,
Yeah.
or is. We do need to remind everybody that the fairgrounds is not a vote center.
Right.
Because
okay.
we I guess, elaborated so much on it.
Right.
And people
During
still
the
go,
pandemic.
yes, people
They
still
still
go out
think
there.
it
yes.
is out there.
So the fairgrounds is not a vote center. We only have one vote center, which is the public library on Cathedral.
Well, and if you do go out to the fairgrounds, you can go back to the animal shelter and adopt a kitten or a dog. I know and that's where we get ours.
Yep.
But pet adoption's a wonderful thing.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about the security of our election machines.
Okay, great.
Along with our new machines that fiscal court agreed to purchase for us, they also got us a new building to store the machines in, a climate control building.
Right.
It's got cameras on it. The only one has a key to the door is my office. We could actually watch. I've got the cameras on my screen at work, so it is secured. And I just want to thank fiscal court for going above and purchasing the machines for us, and plus getting us a new building that we don't have to worry about the air conditioner stopping or the not having heat.
Right.
Our rollers melting, like we did have some trouble. But yes, so
Yeah, and especially as computerized as things have gone, it really needs to be in an atmosphere-controlled environment, and not
Correct.
sitting out in the back of somebody's garage.
Right.
correct.
Subject to all the weather changes and humidity, et cetera.
Well, and in this way, you can assure everybody how secure it is. And I
Yes.
think a lot of people may need that reassurance.
Right.
Correct.
I mean, it was before, but this time we're absolutely certain that you can prove it that
Yes.
this is
Yes.
There's a camera right on it.
right.
Yes.
Now, Jeanette, I know, I see some of these things on social media. Are the machines accessible by Bluetooth or internet?
No.
The voting machines?
No, they're not. I know you do hear a lot of it. I've had people call me. They are not. No access to the internet at all.
All right. So when, at the end of the election day, the votes are gathered and those are electronically stored on a card, I think?
They are.
Is that right? And
Yes.
then the package is brought to...
Yeah, the new ones are closer to being like a flash drive, basically. I know the old ones had like a little silver card, but it's still going to be the same process. That's
Right.
in the machine. They'll bring that back election night. We read it in a special computer we have that is also not hooked up to the internet,
Okay.
where the vote results go into, where we do our actual tabulation.
And there's actually assigned poll workers that bring those machines back,
Right.
those supplies back to. It's not just any poll worker at this location. We've got 2 people, a Democrat, Republican, assigned to bring those back to the office.
Right, and that includes the paper ballots that were cast? I mean,
The
No,
paper
they
ballots
stay in the
stay in the actual machines. Now, the machines are locked and sealed,
okay.
so they have to be sealed for 30 days after the election. in
Yeah, and
machines.
those seals are examined by both the Republican and a Democrat.
Correct,
As-
correct.
Right.
Every seal has a number, and so it's in their book, to lock and seal that machine. It's sealed all day. It's sealed when it comes back to us, and then once that 30 days is up, then we, as the election office, will clean those ballots out. But those ballots are kept for 22 months after the election is over. We're required to store those.
You were talking about party parity. In the office, no one goes and gets a ballot out of that drop box unless it's a Democrat and Republican. I mean, we keep the rooms locked. The girls, everyone knows you have to have Democrat, Republican. Taking it over to Cathy's office, Democrat, Republican. All this voting at the office these 3 days, Democrat, Republican will be in that office at all time. Going to take a ballot. Well, we're not doing it now, but when we took the absentee ballots to the post office to be mailed, it was Democrat, Republican. So just
So absolutely every possible.
anything that we can think of
Right.
to make this
reassure people.
Yes, to where they're not questioned.
Because unfortunately,
or
some
worried.
people try not to reassure people.
no.
And we
I
want,
will go above and beyond to make sure no one has any questions. And if they do have questions, come and see us.
Right.
Come and see us. We've told our poll workers if there's anything that goes on election day, call our office. If you don't want to call the office and give your name, my cell phone's out there. Raymond Penarora's cell phone is out there. If there's a problem, we want to know on election day. I don't want to know the day after election day.
Right.
As long as my board members stay together, we can come to that precinct. As long as we're together in meeting. But if there's anything that goes wrong on election day, we want to know. There's nothing I can do about it the next day.
Right,
Right.
right.
And we've let all the officers know. We've got excellent poll workers. Excellent.
yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
talk
we do.
about a little bit about how the poll workers are trained.
Okay. Well, we this year we had 3 trainings actually. We have Harp Enterprise come down with the new machines. We usually only have one at 6 o'clock a couple of weeks before the election. This one we had 3. I think they lasted maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. As long as someone has questions, we're going to stay there. I think we
Right.
left the fairgrounds this one at maybe before 8. We
Probably,
had 10
yes.
to and 8. These poll workers have to realize if you sign up, great. We need all the poll workers we can get. If you don't come to these meetings, to the training, you can't work. And we've made it available if you can't get to the training on this day because people work or kids or something. We've provided times to come into the office. Now, we do got some new poll workers that we can't use right now because we've already got these. You didn't come in till late or whatever. We've already got the other ones scheduled. We'll try and get everybody working because we don't
Well,
want you to
we
quit.
have to keep party parity, but
Right.
then there's only so many we can use.
Right.
And of course, the goal always is to have more precinct officers than you need.
Right.
Because the other problem is really bad when you need somebody and you don't have anybody. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got quite a few alternates that we have to not use because we may call you on election day and say, I need you to take so-and-so's place at the vote center.
Right,
So
right.
we can't place everybody all at once.
Right.
Just, I don't know if a lot of people understands that. They see that I'm an alternate, why can't I work? You've got several.
Right.
Now, if somebody hadn't voted in a while, how can they check their voter registration?
Okay.
What are the ways to do that?
Okay. Well, of course, they can call our office, 348-1820, option 7. We can make sure they are registered. And, of course, because this is a primary, we have to make sure they're registered either as a Republican or a Democrat.
Right, right.
They can also go, the website, you can also check your registration, which is govote.ky.gov. Okay?
Now, I think it's, now, I've had, talked to people that have moved in from other states and who are surprised that we have closed primaries. You know,
Yes.
they're an independent
Right,
voter and
right.
they expected to be able
Right.
to vote on primary day. Well,
Right.
not in Kentucky.
I hear this all the time also. And I'm like you, unfortunately, every state, some have open primaries, there's different categories, and like you said, Kentucky is a closed primary state. So unfortunately, I have only ever known of an independent. We've had one primary, I think it was several years ago, for a Supreme Court candidate, is my memory. And the independents could vote for that, but they had to understand they could only vote for that one race. So, yes.
Well, you wouldn't believe the voters that don't know the party they belong to also.
Yes.
That'll come.
Really?
Right, yes.
Yes.
How does that happen?
Then they get upset.
It happens a lot.
They get upset when they call us and we're like, no, you're registered. So, no, I'm not. And so some even come to the office and look at their card and, it's quite a few.
Yeah. Of course, they get confused. Like I said, in this race, it's like you'll only get candidates of your party.
Right.
Versus, I think they get confused because when you go in the general, you'll get Democrats, Republicans, Independents.
Right.
It doesn't matter, you're a Republican. You can vote all Democrats. You can, vote all Republicans. You can split your vote. So I think that's why a lot of them get confused because they're registered one party, but they've always been voting the other party in the general. Yeah.
Well, I think we had Michael Adams in one time, in recent history anyway. He seemed like a good guy. His attitude, at least with me, was he's here to help the county clerks and not dictate,
Right.
and not be a micromanager.
Yeah.
And I hope that's the way it is, and I hope you all have a good relationship with his office. Hope he's not a pain in your rear end.
Well, no, like I said, he did a great job with the pandemic, and got to
Yes.
give the guy kudos for that.
Yes.
Even if he's a Republican.
Yes, yes. I am fair.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Marjorie. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. Now, the primary is Tuesday,
May 16th.
May 16th.
And the county clerk's office will be closed to any other business. I have every employee doing the elections. We're there answering phones. All the employees hop over, help Cathy when needed.
And the other thing to remember is, because we've got this question before, the polls are open from 6 to 6. But we're also going to be in the office before 6 until after 6. So don't hesitate to call us whatever time that day. If it's before our regular 8 o'clock office hours for election, we will be there to answer your questions.
Yes.
All hands on deck.
All hands on deck.
And the election goes all year. You don't, you just see, you all, or the media, people, voters, just see maybe the month or two at the Cathy in her office there. It's all year long. It's something all year long.
There's always something to do in elections, yes.
She
Well, I know
does a
that-
great job.
If you look at the election calendar, there's something happening
Pretty much every month.
several times every month.
Yes.
Whether it's a candidate filing deadline or there's a lot of requirements that the clerk's offices have to do behind the scenes to
Right,
and
right.
that's that really tells the tale of how busy the election office can be. It's not just for a primary, right before a primary and a general election.
Right. Like you said, this is our busiest time, of course, because we're, gearing up. But, during the year, if nothing else, we have just cards that come in every day, people changing cards, people registering. That goes, that's 365 days a year. So there's always something that can be done in elections.
By the way, I had someone to ask me, when is the filing deadline for somebody who wants to run for city council?
City council won't be until next year, so I will have to get you that date.
Okay.
I want to say it's probably June of next year.
Okay.
But if you call me at the office, I'll get you the exact date. I know the first day will always be the day after the general. So it would be like, this year will be like November 8th, 2023 is the first day, but I can't remember what that deadline is. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, you guys do a wonderful job, and I know my wife was impressed. I mean, she being a new poll worker last time. She's just trying to learn the ropes, but she was just amazed at how well everything went, and she felt good working because she's working with people who, she may not know the ropes yet, but she had some good teachers to work with.
We try. Like you said, we throw a lot of information at you, especially at that precinct officers training. But we always say, we always try to keep experienced people around to be kind of that person to go through and just kind of.
You got to give them kudos. That's a lot.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot to remember. It's a long day.
We've got great officers. I appreciate them. I appreciate Cathy's office, and not just the election office, all the other ladies that come over that has to help. Within the last 4 years, it's more and more. It's just not two ladies that go over. Now it's four or maybe six, but if they're needed in that department, we have to go. We have to help. And they do without any trouble.
Right, and the election workers that are volunteers.
Excellent.
Yes.
I mean, they do get paid a stipend.
We do get paid.
A stipend.
Like you said, I always say you're never going to get rich, but there is a little bit of payment.
Right.
But it's a long day.
But it is a long day.
You earn it.
Are paid through fiscal court. So yes. But it is a long day, and I really respect those people. They come in, you can see it on their face how tired they are at 6 o'clock.
Well, it's a civic duty.
Yeah.
And
But like
I
you
think
said,
the people see it that way.
Yeah, I don't think a whole lot of people do. I'm scared we'll be
Well,
losing more and more.
it's a 14, sometimes 16-hour day. It just depends on how long that goes. Because we tell them to get there about 5, and then sometimes it's 7, 8, 9 o'clock before they're done.
Yeah.
Long day.
All right. Well, we're just about at the end of the show. Thank you, Jeanette and Kathy.
Thank you all for having us.
And appreciate all the information you shared today. All right.
And we're not voting for Steve Bashir.
No, we're not.
We're voting for Andy.
Andy Bashir, not Steve Bashir.
Right, exactly.
Like I said, I'm going to write that on the back of my hand. Well, Margie, do we have plans for next Wednesday's show? Don't you remember?
I have to
I know
go
we
check.
talked about it.
Yes, we have David Clark and Aaron Sorino, and this is from the Bardstown High School, talking about student safety.
All right.
Students' safety for athletes.
All right, very good. Well, thank you, Margie. And Margie and I will be back next Wednesday for another Bradford and Brooks. Have a great week.
WBRT Bardstown, 1320 AM, 97.1 FM, and on 94.9 FM in Lebanon.